Before we dig into the weeds with some of that stuff, I want to just step back for a moment and just kind of ask you about the way in which this is being implemented. So, I think it was Rahm Emanuel who said, "Never waste a good crisis," and we've heard like other Democrats, and I see you shaking your head because you're like, "Yep, we've been there." And you've talked about this, so people need to check out your podcast, obviously, and listen to go a little bit deeper. But for the sake of my audience, I'm just thinking to myself, this is what first comes to mind for me, is that we have these politicians. Even Hillary Clinton, I believe, said something, if not the exact same thing. Don't quote me on that, but the idea that we never want to waste a good crisis, and that now, while America is down, the rest of the world is down because of what is inevitably a global crisis for every single person. And, counter to popular belief, Donald Trump didn't create this virus. He's not responsible for the deaths of this virus. Fact check, it actually came from China last time I checked. But the point is that, like, so to now, at this time, be using these things when we're at a weak moment to try to capitalize on them is a kind of frightening thing.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this is the COVID-19 pandemic, the lockdowns associated with it, the crippling of the economy due to the lockdowns, not necessarily the disease itself, but the government's response to the disease has definitely opened the door to this type of radical restructuring of the way that our economy works. And I actually think that this is something that they've been going for a while. And instead of COVID, which obviously just came up in the last year or so, they were trying to use climate change as their justification for an overhaul of how the economy runs. Right. And that was kind of proven by the concept of the Green New Deal. And, I'm in this this industry, that talks about, public policy nonstop. So the Green New Deal is super familiar to me. Not sure it's super familiar to you and your listeners here, but that is the AOC proposed legislation, $95 trillion plan over 10 years to take us away from all natural gas and fossil fuels, and instead.
Yeah, and clean burning nuclear energy.
Right. Get away from that. Instead, strap us to the wind and solar power. But then it also included things like universal health care, jobs guarantees, free college, pretty much anything under the liberal wish list. Right. And I always was confused by that, because it was like, if you were really sounding the alarm on the world's coming to an end and we have to stop it at all costs, why would you spend 1 second or 1 penny trying to get something like universal health care, right? It seems like we have bigger fish to fry than trying to bog down the debate with those types of things. But what was revealed during all of that, I believe it was AOC's, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's, secretary of something. And he said, "Oh, you were looking at the Green New Deal as an environmental thing? We always looked at it as a changing the entire economy thing." Yeah. So that to me was the biggest illustration of this idea that they were trying to use climate change as this justification to overhaul, the economy and society. That has failed to work. We know, just with the Heartland Institute and our focus on climate change policy and energy policy, that when it comes to priorities, especially during election years, climate change is near the bottom. Not a whole lot of people think that that's the most important thing. So these people that are pushing these agendas have seen that climate change has kind of been a failure when it comes to using it to justify these. COVID-19 has blown down the door. They have been able to get more stuff enacted using COVID-19 as justification than they could have dreamt with climate change. So yeah, the Rahm Emanuel quote, "Don't let a good crisis go to waste," that couldn't be more true when it comes to this COVID-19.
Catch new episodes of Indie Thinker with Reed Uberman for free right now by going to YouTube or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Simply type Indie Thinker with Reed Uberman in the search bar and click on my face. Don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe. to stay informed when a new episode drops.